You were irresistibly drawn to the subjects you weren't necessarily the best at school, because you weren't drawn to the subjects where you could bluff your way to an A like you can in history or in English, and you weren't drawn to the subjects that encouraged the admission of not knowing stuff. You were drawn to the subjects that had an actual destination, a subject where you could sit back, even if it took 7 years, and say, I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of history academics who would be very offended by what you just said, but for good reason.
Would they, though? Because there'd be another history academic over there who completely challenges their analysis of why, Charlemagne...
I think you need all of these disciplines, right?
Yeah.
They're necessary, but not sufficient to understand the human condition, understand our place in the universe, run a peaceful world. You need them all.
Yeah,
you need it, obviously.
Imagination as well as knowledge.
And again, it goes back to hubris, right? It's the idea that, you say, well, I've got a PhD in history, therefore I know how to run a country. Or I've got a PhD in physics, therefore I know how to run a country. The truth of the matter is that all these human pursuits, the arts, humanities, sciences, music, theology, philosophy, all of them are attempts to understand what it means to be human and live these finite, fragile lives that we have. And also they're attempts to get along.
Yeah.
Right? Ultimately, that's what politics is.
Yeah.
That's why I think politics, we could talk about politics, that's why I think we have a problem at the moment, because it's become so adversarial. And that I think we've forgotten what we're supposed to be doing. We're not supposed to be winning the argument, actually. We're not supposed to be putting forward a vision of society and winning, as much as making sure that this wide mixture of opinion that you naturally have in a country of 60, 70, 80 million people is accommodated. It goes back to that idea that you've got to understand that you're not right.
Yeah.
It's not your vision of the way to run a country is not necessarily or even possibly the right one. Because there are lots of different views.
I don't know whether this will surprise you or not, but last week's guest was Mick Lynch of the RMT, who actually espoused some quite similar thoughts sitting in that chair about the myth of the ultimate victory, as it were, and it is about achieving some of what you want while accommodating some stuff that you don't want, and that's what getting along is, really.
Yeah. Oppenheimer, in his Reith lectures, this is the transferable skills thing. He talked about quantum mechanics, so it'll only take me a minute to but there's an analogy. So he said, imagine you think about an electron, and it's like sometimes a single particle. You have to think of it as a point-like object, a grain of sand, which is probably how most of us would think about a little particle. But actually, also we understand we have to think about it in some cases as an extended wavy thing that fills the space that it's in. So you've got these two things that look contradictory. A point-like object, extended wavy thing. The truth is that it's neither of those. It's a very complex kind of behaviour that this thing has. And these are two good analogies to try and think about it. And they're applicable in different circumstances. So they look like ideas that are completely at right angles to each other, that you have to mutually contradictory, but you have to hold them both in your head. You have to have a skill, which is hold them in your head. And nature forces you to hold those two things in your head simultaneously in order to get a full picture of the system or a better picture of the physical system. And, of course, you know what I'm going to say, Oppenheimer said, and so it is with politics.
Wow.
You've got to understand that human beings have individual needs and they have individual, that they go to work and they want to keep as much of their money as they can or whatever it is. They have an individual life. But also human beings have a social life, a community exists.
Sure.
And all human beings understand that they have to compromise and work together. It's not even compromise, is it? Just work together.
Community.
And so they look like they're pulling in different directions. Oppenheimer says you could call them capitalism and communism, right? Because he was talking in the 50s,
sure.
right? So, and McCarthy was pursuing him at the time.
Yeah.
So communism on one side, capitalism on the other side. But of course, neither is the right way to do it. Because it's complicated. It's like an electron.
Wow.
And that's what his Reith lecture
That's genius.
And you
right?
go, he was a genius. And you go, yes, that's true. So if PPES, if you gave that lecture to all the people who are in our government now and said, as part here, let's just try and understand a bit of quantum mechanics. And then you can understand that idea. And now we'll move that idea over to politics because it's applicable. And that's what Oppenheimer was doing.
Blimey.